What's going on, guys? I just recently watched Death Battle's Goku vs. Superman Part 3. Now, in comparison to the first two, as always, the editing was great, animation was fire. However, the research in the third one, in the third Goku vs. Superman from Death Battle, was actually pretty good. Now, the first two were just awful. Like, I'm not even going to get into it. It was horrible. But this one, they actually did a pretty good job. And this video, before I continue, it's completely unscripted, right? Like, I'm going off the dome with this one. So, the reason why I say it's good, not necessarily because I agree with the standards in which they used Goku and Superman. They used a composite version, mixing up multiple different variations of Goku and Superman. Obviously, the issues with that would be these are all different Gokus and these are all different Supermen, so they don't quite necessarily scale the same, and it gets kind of weird. But regardless, if that's your thing, if you like using composites versus composites, that's on you. If you like that type of stuff, go for it, right? But me personally, I like to use specific main canon storyline based characters rather than like trying to implement all of these like non-canon events or these alternate events that are canon but they're a different variation of the character. So like, for example, if I say Goku versus this person, I'm just going to go with Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, use the manga as material, use guidebooks that are in reference to the main continuity of the manga and the anime, and I would go like with that. So I'm not going to be mentioning GT or Heroes or any of the other movies because, well, they're not it's kind of weird. It's not that it's not canon. If we're talking about like other different characters, like video game characters or other anime characters, there are non-canon material for other shows. But with Dragon Ball specifically, I don't believe that all the different variations of Goku aren't canon. I think they're just alternate versions of Goku that reside within like that multiverse. Because before it was always canon versus not canon, right? And then it kind of transitioned into Toriyama coming out and not saying that Dragon Ball GT wasn't canon, but he said it was like a fun side story and that the movies can be considered like alternate realities, like alternate possibilities that Goku could have went through. So it's not that all the other material isn't canon. Dragon Ball Heroes may outright just be like not canon, as well as the video games. But I do understand why people are saying, like, it's not that it's not canon, it's just that it's its own continuity. But the point I'm trying to make is that I like to use, like, the main storyline, right? The main continuity of a character. The main storyline for characters. All around, for, like, anime, comic books, video games, etc., right? So, with that being said, I wouldn't necessarily say that people using composite variations are a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that that's not my taste, but hey, it is what it is. And the same thing goes for the whole Superman side of things, you know, like they use different variations of Superman, and not all of these Supermen are the same Superman. Some of them have fought each other in like alternate timelines and things like that, but they're all still different. They have different backstories, they look different, different personalities. But if we're using all of these versions of Goku and all of these versions of Superman, and using the highest arguments possible for these guys, if that's what you want to do, I don't know. Me personally, I just can't fully wrap my head around that. I just don't like using composites because it's very weird. It's not the same person. It's kind of like if you watch Dragon Ball, for example, like Dragon Ball Super, and we see that Kid Trunks actually meets his future self, and it's like, yeah, they're both Trunks, but they both live two completely different lives. They have different abilities and skill sets. Even though they're the same person, like from an alternate timeline, they're still different people. So when it comes to the stats, they basically, in a nutshell, said that Superman and Goku, like, at best, for highest arguments, are multiversal. Now, while that was a good shot, Superman can easily be scaled to outerversal as well as Goku. So, when it comes to strength, if the intention was to make a video presenting the audience of the highest interpretation and the highest arguments and the highest scaling and the highest feats possible, saying that both Goku and Superman are multiversal plus, that's just incorrect. They're both outerversal, because they said Superman scales to the cosmology, which is like this huge number times bigger than the universe, while Goku scales to his cosmology. Multiverses typically are infinitely transcendental to one singular universe, and both in Dragon Ball and in DC, they extrapolate upon that is the case with endless possibilities and things like that. So they basically just said both of them were multiversal. No, if we're going with the highest arguments, especially if we're using like Dragon Ball Heroes, they'd both be outerversal. Now, who do I think is stronger? I think Superman easily would be stronger if we're using the highest versions, mixing up the highest versions with a composite variation of Superman, and just going with the highest arguments possible without being dishonest. Superman would win strength pretty comfortably, actually, because Goku does have a little handful of outerversal feats and scaling. Yeah, he got a good little something going on, but Superman's just been doing this longer. Like, the authors are just, they've been ridiculous. And since we're mixing all of these different Supermen, he gets all of these crazy feats and scaling that you could use for him. It's so much material. I can't even cover it in this video. It'd be too much. But no, Superman, he just has way more outerversal feats and outerversal scaling than Goku does. And he would scale ridiculously higher in the outerversal than Goku, especially if we look at the DC cosmology of the God Sphere. I know Mr. Mixie said it was like multiversal, but like if we were to look at the Spectre once said that there were like archetypal beings within the God Sphere, and there's like outerversal levels, amounts of power within the God Sphere, like obviously like the Source Wall and the Speed Force, and like pretty sure like the Lantern Corps, like the Green Lanterns and stuff, not them like as individuals, but like the very concept of like the emotional spectrum and things like that. So there's a few outerversal like sources you could like extrapolate upon and kind of just dive deep into the DC cosmology. And there's so much more. Like, Superman has way more options to work with when it comes to strength, and just being so far into outerversal above Goku is not even funny. Like, Goku, in the main canon storyline, he lives in a macrocosm, which has like 11 other macrocosms like orbiting around each other, so it's like 12 macrocosms. In the main canon, you can get him to like baseline outer, maybe a layer or two into outer. However, in Dragon Ball Heroes, we know that one of the main villains was going to destroy Beat's world, and Beat's world is considered the real world, and like Dragon Ball Super, GT, Heroes, all of that is all confined within a video game. So people could say that, oh, that's a high outer realm. I actually saw somebody say that it was a boundless realm. But DC, if we're going with that, DC has other like realms within not only the God Sphere, but even realms even that are beyond that are considered like so high up there that any other dimension below it is fiction, right? So it's like crazy. And then they also got like a weird level of like dimensional tiering. It just gets way too high. So if we're doing the whole boundless thing for like Dragon Ball, then that could easily be said for like DC, and then we'd just never get anywhere, right? So I didn't necessarily agree with the whole boundless thing, but that's what people are like arguing for high ends. But for sure, both Goku and Superman can be viewed as outerversal, and you didn't even have to use Heroes to get Goku into outerversal. So using Heroes should definitely get him into outerversal. As well as Superman, you know, all these different gods and archetypal beings that reside within, like, creation within DC Comics that Superman scales to. The fact that Death Battle didn't say that they were outerversal, kind of like I said, they did good, but it's like you guys were saying you were using, like the highest stat possible without, like, lowballing anybody, which I'm not saying that they did lowball them, but what I'm saying is they could have actually went like a lot higher. So once again, I think Superman takes strength anyways. So moving on to speed, Superman comfortably wins speed. I don't see why Goku would be faster at all. I mean, even with the highest end interpretations possible, like destroying Beats World and Dragon Ball Heroes, like some people want to say that's irrelevant speed, and it's like, okay, you might be able to, with like extreme glazing, get Goku with like several instances of of irrelevant speed, and it's like, okay, and Superman performs irrelevant speed feats every other Tuesday racing the Flash. Like, who cares? like if we're just going to be going high-end crazy with Goku, then you have to do the same thing with Superman, and it's just not fair. Superman performs irrelevant speed feats, like I said, every other Tuesday, racing the Flash, breaking through dimensions that are beyond, like, comprehension and logic, running down gods that, like, are infinitely transcendental to life and death. It's crazy. So, yeah, no, speed Superman would win easily. He has way more irrelevant speed feats you could pick apart with, like hundreds, actually. I mean, like, we're mixing, like, so many different Supermen. I don't even know who I'm actually talking about. It's just, I guess this composite version is just, okay, Superman. Okay, it's like, all right, which issue, which comic issue are we talking about? It's like, oh, no, every single one of them, the highest interpretations possible. It's like, oh, okay, well, then he gets everything, I guess. All right, whatever. So, yeah, no, speed, Superman would get that very comfortably. That shouldn't even be close. Like, even though Goku with, like, extreme glazing would have irrelevant speed, Superman has way more relevant speed feats and scaling, and that are better. So, it wouldn't matter. Skills and abilities, Superman, they tried to say Goku was a better fighter. I don't think he's, like, a better fighter than Superman. A lot of people actually might be really confused about that, but the thing is, Goku is a mastered... First off, Goku's, like, 50 years old, right? Even in Dragon Ball Heroes, he's not even, like, that much older. And if we're using all these different variations of Goku... But it's weird, because the Gokus fight each other in Dragon Ball Heroes. Like, I think it was Capsule Corp Goku versus Xeno Goku. I think Capsule Corp Goku won, but... I don't know. Like, none of these Gokus are, like, thousands of years old. Like, they're, like, still, like, 50-something or something like that. I don't know. And, yeah, no. So, yeah, he's definitely a very well-trained martial artist, but Superman doesn't have to, like, know all of these different crazy martial arts styles to be a better fighter than Goku. It's simply due to raw experience. Like, they said, like, the skill went to Goku, but the experience went to Superman. But my thing is, if we're using all these different variations of Superman, he's had so much experience that one of his basic fighting styles would be way too much for Goku's composite version with all of its different martial arts styles, because Superman just has way more experience. It's not even fair. So, like, why does it matter? It's like, what I'm trying to say is what's the point of having, like, all these different martial arts styles when none of them work? Like, when one of Superman's basic fighting styles are just superior. So I'm just trying to say, like, quality over quantity, right? Man, I really don't like this type of battle, but I guess I'm talking about it. Like I said, sorry if I'm a little scatterbrained. This video is not scripted at all, off the dome. So durability, AP, destructive capabilities, that should scale to being, like, outer-versal for both of them. Superman being way higher into outer-versal, ridiculously higher into outer-versal in comparison to Goku. So Superman would win every single category, and it would just be a stomp. Yeah, no, so I'm not saying they lowballed Superman or Goku. I'm just saying that they made it seem like they were going to be using the highest end arguments possible. They did pretty good on the speed. They said immeasurable speed. So that was actually pretty good. But no, they would have, like, if we're just going with crazy high ends, they would have irrelevant speed. But no, yeah. Yeah, no, this video was actually really good. It was really good. The first Goku versus Superman, garbage. It was garbage. The second Goku versus Superman was worse. Like I said, the editing and the animation was entertaining. It was great in that aspect. But in terms of research, the first two, awful. Awful research. horrible research. Like, it was just dog water. It was so bad. It was hard to watch. I'm sorry. Like, and they've actually made other death battles on their channel that are also just horrible. Absolutely horrible. Like, the research was just awful, right? But enough about that, right? This video, Goku versus Superman 3, I really think that they stepped up their game, even though they made it seem like, and they made a lot of statements that can be interpreted by me and by, like, a lot of viewers that they were trying to use the highest arguments possible for both characters. But all I'm saying is they didn't, because there's still a few things they could have said for both sides to make them a lot stronger. But like they said in the video, it's going to be argued anyways, and it doesn't matter. It's been going on, like, dude, I've been seeing this debate go on for, like, honestly, before I even started YouTube a decade ago. Like, for example, like, I remember I was at the mall, and I've seen people at Comic-Con. People actually did do that back then. And yeah, no, like, they had like an anime section, they had a comic book section, and then I would see them kind of like argue back and forth a little bit. Obviously, it was all fun and games and shit, but like nobody was being like dead serious. But like, yeah, no, like, those questions and those arguments have been here since before I was probably born, and they'll probably still be here even after I'm gone, which hopefully I live a very long life. But anyways, let's not get too dark and depressing about that. So I guess, yeah, no, if you're using a composite version of Superman, he should stomp easily. Like, I don't see why that would even be fair. That wouldn't even be fair at all. I don't like this type of battle. It's kind of weird. But regardless, I think it was okay. I think it was actually okay. You know, I don't think it was, like, in terms of research, the best. But it was pretty good. It was pretty good. And it definitely was a massive step up from the last two. And I also did like that they did admit that Goku would beat most incarnations of Superman. Because he would. Like, he actually would. But not the strongest versions of Superman. Especially not a composite version that they were talking about. But, no, I think even with the composite version, they lowballed him a little bit. I guess when I say him, I mean both Goku and Superman. Like, they were using composite for both. And, yeah, they did kind of lowball. If they were trying to go with the higher-end arguments, yeah, they kind of lowballed. But regardless, I think if anybody were to ask me, hey, composite Superman versus composite Goku, my verdict would be composite Superman. And I would look at you like that's not even a fair question. That's like, okay, so who would win in a cage fight? Like a wiener dog or a tiger? Like, what are we doing? Like how is that even, like, why would you ask me that? Like, it's weird. So no. But anyways, guys, that's my take on the Goku versus Superman 3 from Death Battle. And yeah, with all that being said, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.